Hello and welcome to this tutorial of JENTIS. JENTIS is a data capture platform that is based in EU and provides server-side tracking solutions that make it easy to collect first-party data in a GDPR-compliant manner. In this video, we will have a first view of the JENTIS tool, and we will also set up an example Google Analytics 4 tag. So when we first log in into JENTIS, we land in the home page. Over here, there are different panels, like a video that is an introduction to the tool, the latest product updates, some links to their documentation and their technical support, and there are also some very quick video tutorials that can help the users quick start their implementations. To the left side of our screen, we can see that there is a sidebar with different options. The first one that we are going to visit is the settings option. Over here, the first option is the containers. In this page, we can either create or manage our existing containers. Containers are the direct connection between the website, domain, and JENTIS. And in order to successfully deploy them, we have to do two things. The first one is to add the tracking code that we can get when we click here. And this is the tracking code. This script over here needs to be added inside each page's HTML head. And also we have to add the DNS entries. These DNS entries over here that you see in this table need to be added inside the Content Delivery Network of the website, or CDN. And when both of these steps are completed and they're completed successfully, then JENTIS is enabled in our website. The other two options that we have are related to user administration. The first one allows us to add or delete users, to change their permissions inside our account. And there's also the My Account option where we can adjust our personal information, like an example, the name of our account, the email, our permission groups, and we can also change our password. Yeah, great. So the next section that we will visit is the tools. Tools are third-party data applications like web analytics solutions, marketing solutions, advertising solutions that we need to first activate inside our account in order to be able to send data to these technologies. And when I click at the top right here, the Add New Tool, you will see that there are two options. There is the Assistant mode and also the Default mode. The Assistant mode is a step-by-step wizard that gives you the steps that you need to follow in order to create a tool. And there is also this default mode over here. When I click proceed in the default mode, you will see that there is a big list of tools that are currently supported by JENTIS. In our example, we will set up the Google Analytics 4 server-side solution. So I will click this tool over here. And then we have some different options. The first one is the name. So we can give it a name, like in example, GA4, I can call it tutorial. And then also S2S, which means server to server. Then we should specify in which container we want this tool to be deployed. We can obviously select all of our containers. In our specific case, we will use the Advanced Metrics demo container. And then we need to add the measurement ID of our Google Analytics 4. For my case, in this example over here, the measurement ID should be this value over here, which I will add. Then the last option in this page is this checkbox over here that says automatically create tags. When we have this one toggled on, and when we add this tool inside our container, this will, as it describes by itself, it will automatically create some tags for us. These tags are The page view tag is one example. Some e-commerce tags are also created, like an example, the purchase tag or the add to cart tags. But in our case, because I don't want to overpopulate our implementation with these tags and because we do not need the e-commerce tags, I will toggle this one off. There is also an advanced settings tab over here that we will not get into a lot of detail, but it also gives us some additional and optional, obviously, settings that we can configure for our tool. Like an example, if we want to enable the debug view mode for this tool, then we can just enable it over here. Or if we want to ignore some referrer domains, we can add these domains over here by comma separated format, and then JENTIS will ignore these referrers. But we will not proceed with any changes over here. The basic installation is just this tab over here, and since we have it ready, we will hit the add button over here. So now this tool is ready, as you can see over here, to be used. After the tools, we will visit the Legal Hub. So the Legal Hub is a solution that JENTIS provides, and it is a solution where tools, consent management platform connectors, and vendors work as a whole with the purpose of activating a data stream based on the user's consent. The options that we have over here are the consent administration. So this tool is obviously very handy, but if we don't want to use it, then we can toggle this one off over here. And then we completely disable the Legal Hub section for our account. Then we have the storage lifetime option. This feature allows users to configure the maximum lifetime for cookies and local storage entries that are set by JENTIS. So this over here option or configuration page is related only to the JENTIS cookies and local storage entries, not to any other tools, like an example, the Google Analytics tools entries. Then we have the Consentbars option over here. So as you can see in this page, we have a list of some well-known consent management platforms. In our case, in our website, we're deploying OneTrust, so we have this one enabled. When I click the edit button over here, you will see that the configuration page is just one page where we specify in which container we want OneTrust to fire to this solution, this consent bar to be deployed. And as you can also see, there are some other configuration fields over here, like, in example, the IDs that each different category in OneTrust has. Most of the time, all of these are the default ones that are used by the specific vendor, so we do not touch them, and then we can hit save. When we have this one enabled over here, then we have activated something that is called CMP bridge. So it is a bridge between JENTIS and our CMP tool that we are using inside our website. And when we activate this solution, JENTIS is able to detect the user's consent, and then according to the user's consent, it will deploy or not deploy the tags. And then as a last option over here, we have the vendors option. Here we have all of the tools that are deployed inside our account. If we select, let's say, the Google Analytics 4 vendor over here, you will see that we have some different options. Yes, we have the name and also the connected containers of this vendor. Then we have this consent settings section over here. This consent setting section over here is related to essential mode. Essential mode is a feature that is provided by JENTIS. We will not get into a lot of detail in this one because it is a very big discussion point. But on a very high level, what essential mode does is, if we enable it, then tags will also fire when the user declines cookies. but with the difference that when the user declines the cookies, we will send all of the information to the endpoint, like Google Analytics, for an example, except from personal identifiable information, like in example, the IP address of the user. And then we also have the Google Consent Mode settings. So since March 2024, where Google Consent Mode, the setup of Google Consent Mode was mandatory for Google solutions to work properly. JENTIS has created a very easy to use setup where with some clicks, we can specify which categories our vendor is grouped, in which categories our vendor is grouped. And then we will enable consent mode for our vendor as well with these over here, these checkboxes. And then when we hit save, we have completed the setup of our vendor. And that's it for the Legal Hub as well. Now, one more solution that is provided by JENTIS is a tag manager solution. We will leave the tags for last, and then we can go to the functions. So functions are, let's say, they can apply further logic to customize the data in an implementation. They can transform values before they are submitted in a tag. Like an example, if we want to modify a value to lowercase before we send it to a tag, then we can use this function over here. If we want to remove all spaces from a value before we send it to Google Analytics, for an example, then we can use this function over here. In general, functions are used to transform values before we send them to their endpoints. I will also skip the triggers because they are closely connected with the states and the variables, and we need to understand first the states and variables before we proceed to triggers. So states are different events that take place in a website. Like an example, when the page loads, this is one state or one event that occurred in our website. When a user clicks an element in the website, this is also an event or a state of that occurs in the website. If an element is, an example, visible inside the user's viewport, then this is also a state or an event that occurs in the website. And so all of these events are defined as states in JENTIS. Next one would be the variables. So variables, if I click here, the add new variable, we have like 3 options. We have the client-side variables. Variables are used to retrieve information that is available in the website. They can be used by triggers to form specific conditions. They can be used by tags in order to send additional data to the endpoints, but they can also be used from other variables as well. So a variable can also use another variable if our implementation requires it, if there is something complex in our implementation. The client-side variables retrieve information from the user's browser, like an example, the value of a first-party cookie or the parameter of a URL. The server-side variables do not access the user's browser, which is something that the client-side variables do. What they do is they access values that are submitted in the JENTIS server. And lastly, we have constants. Constants are self-explanatory. These are static values that we can create as variables, most probably for the purpose of using these constants in numerous tags or variables. If we want, in general, to use a static value very frequently, then we can create a constant. And then, since now we know what states and variables are, we can go back to triggers. So triggers determine when a tag should be activated or not. And they can be enriched with different conditions, which when they are true, the trigger will fire the respective tag. In this wizard over here you can give a name to the trigger, and then you can select a state. So the state, as I mentioned previously, it is an event that occurs in the website. So let's say that we want to create a trigger that fires when the page loads and when the URL is the contact us URL. So what we can do here is, first of all, specify the page load state. And then in order to add specific conditions, like in example, to deploy the tag when the contact us page is visited, then we can hit here the add condition. Under variable, we have to choose the URL. Then we need to choose an operator. We can choose different things over here, like an example, regular expressions or contains. For example, I will select contains. And then if we want it to fire in the contact us page, let's imagine that the contact us page is under the slash contact us URL. So this trigger over here, what it actually does is when the page loads and when the URL contains this contact us value, then the trigger will be deployed, will be activated. And lastly, we have also the exclude trigger. So if we want to not fire our trigger when another trigger fires, then we need to choose this other trigger over here. So in example, yeah, just for the sake of this example, even though it doesn't make sense, let's say that the exclude trigger is the add to cart. So over here, we want to deploy our trigger when all of these conditions are true, but not when the add to cart trigger fires. And this is how the exclude trigger is working. And yeah, that's the end of the triggers as well. Now we can go to plugins. Plugins are used to cater, I would say, certain use cases as a single component, like an example, tracking YouTube video interactions. Right now, this is the only plugin that is available to customers from JENTIS, the YouTube video tracking plugin. It is just a one-page configuration where we can define which video interactions we want to track, like an example, track the video start or the video complete, and yeah, different video interactions. And this is a very useful feature for us in order to avoid creating any kind of complex implementations, like an example, setting up a manual workaround for video tracking. And then we have the codes. So codes are JavaScript snippets that are deployed to the client side. Over here, apart from the typical basics like giving the name and also selecting in which container we want this code to be deployed, here there is this field, the JavaScript code field, where we can add the JavaScript snippet that we would like to deploy in our website. Like an example, if you want to show up an alert to the user's browser, then you can do something like alert hello. And this one will deploy this code inside the browser of the user. And also we can specify when we want to fire this code by selecting the trigger over here. And yeah, last thing is the tags. So tags are used to send information to our different endpoints. In our example, we will create a new tag that is sending information to Google Analytics 4. So if you remember previously, we have created a tool that was called the GA4 tutorial S2S. So we will use this one as a template, as a tool to create our tag as the first step. Then we click next. In the next step over here, we have the tag selection. So over here, we have different templates that we can choose from. And this is these are the templates that we are going to deploy in our website. So for our example, we will deploy the page view tag over here, and I can give it a name like GA4 tutorial page view. Then I can click next. In this next page over here, we have more configurations that we can complete in our tag. Like an example, if we want to push some custom dimensions, then we can do it over here. If we want to modify different metadata, maybe like the page title, things like that. So the good thing with JENTIS is that we are in complete control of our data, which means that we can modify everything that we send to the endpoint, in this case to Google Analytics 4, before we send it via this configuration page over here. In this example, we will leave everything like this, and then I will click next. The last step is the trigger. So we want this tag to fire on all page loads. Then I will select the page load trigger and then create tag. And then we have already created our first tag over here. When we hit the tag option over here, then you will see a list of all of the tags that we have deployed in our website. And lastly, we have the publish section. In the publish section, this page over here, there are some different panels that we have in front of us. Over here, this published version tab shows us the latest published version that is live in our website right now, because this is a demo container. We have not published anything yet, but when you publish something, then you will have some information about the latest published version. Over here, you will see the list of all the versions that were previously published. And to the top right, you will see three options. The first one is the publish option. If I click it, then over here, I can select in which environment I would like my container to be published, in the live, in the staging environment, or both. And then I can add a description of what I have deployed in my website. And then when I click publish, we are deploying everything, our changes and our container to the respecting environment. There is also one more option over here, the changelog. And the changelog option over here is giving us all of the changes that took place in this current version. So as you can see over here, you can see that we have created the GA4 tutorial tool. We have created the GA4 tutorial page view tag. So the changelog is giving us all of the changes that were made in this current version. Lastly, we have the preview mode or debugging mode. When I click it, you will see that there is a new tab that is opening. And then if I click Start Debug Session, you will see over here that a new debug session has started. And as you can see over here, our tag, the page view tag, was triggered. When I click this drop down over here, you will see that there are different information. Over here, you see the payload, so the information that was sent to our Google Analytics 4 property. And yeah, the name of the event, which is page view, an example, the session ID, which is this value over here. And if we want to have a different view of the debugger, we can also click the state debugger over here. Every time a new state occurs or a new event, like an example, right now I have initiated a second page view, you will see over here that another page view is showing up. And this is how you can as well debug your implementation. So if everything went well, and I go back to Google Analytics, I should probably be able to see the traffic that I just initiated. And yes, as you can see, we already have these two page views over here. the ones that I just sent from JENTIS. And yeah, this is it about JENTIS. A very useful tool that allows us to set up different solutions in a very easy way. And it is a solution that is a very, yes, as I said, easy to use and GDPR compliant. Thank you.